So, if you ever feel like you don't have time for your self care, you're not alone. I used to wait until I was completely burnt out before doing anything that actually helped me. And today I want to share how I fit nervous system work and self care into my day as a single mum running two businesses and renovating a house without it feeling like another thing on my to do list, and giving you some tips and tools to take away with you so that you can develop your own plan to have self care as a priority for you. So, let me tell you where I am a bit in my life. So, I have ended up being a single mum to a 5-year-old who is also on the autistic spectrum, which means obviously I've got to be doing the school runs, but I also need to be available for the schools. So when they have school trips, I need to be able to take the day off to go on that school trip because they need extra support there for my son and other bits and pieces that I need to do around that. I'm also running two businesses. One is lighter and easier to manage. It's more passive, but I still need to be aware of it. And I have one which is my full-time focus as well. And on top of that, I recently bought a small house for me and my son that I'm renovating myself. So I'm doing that in and around things. So it needs a lot of decorating still, but that is happening bit by bit. And that can be very exhausting at times when I do it. And I have experienced on more than one occasion that whole run on empty, crash, recover, repeat cycle. So that you just get stuck on that push, 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 crash, rest, recover because you now can't do anything because you're too exhausted. And then you get back into the push, push, push. And honestly, it doesn't really work for me or really for anybody. And I realised that I was only practicing self-care when I was desperate, when I really needed it, and not as part of everyday life. And I think that was one of the things that I realised I needed to shift. And I didn't want is for my self-care to be like this emergency response that only happened then, because then it has a lot less impact as well. I wanted it to be a rhythm, part of my life, and something that was allowing me to recharge as I'm going so that I don't need to have those crashes anymore. So this was the key that I figured out, is that I stopped trying to find extra time for long routines and started looking for tiny moments that I could already build into my day so that I could offer myself self-care in little bursts as opposed to setting aside time for it. Because if I was going to set aside time for it, it always got pushed for something that appeared more urgent than self-care. Even though I know personally how important self-care is, it's still, when you've got these demands in your brain of I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do the other, you sort of think, oh, well, I'll leave that meditation and I'll come back to it later. So I went back to, okay, in the past, I'm not a smoker anymore. I used to be a smoker. And I would take 5-minute breaks on a regular basis. And I wouldn't think twice about it because I had an addiction and I had to feed that addiction. And if I didn't feed that addiction, then I felt really awful. So I just did it. And actually, people talk about smokers feel calmer. They aren't actually calmer. You're on a much higher stress level, but the nicotine makes you feel better when you have it. But I think also, like looking back now, what's actually built into that is you have a 5-minute reset where you're resetting your nervous system. You're allowing yourself to come back down before you carry on. So you're actually nurturing your nervous system at the same time. Not that I advocate smoking because I would never go back to it, but it's how you can replicate that in life without having to have the addiction and the awful habit. So there are lots of different ways that you can bring it in. So it might just be between switching tasks, I might just do a 1-minute body scan. And often when we see body scans, they're long meditations. You've got to sit there, eyes closed, go through the body step by step by step, and it takes time. But actually, once you just say, you set the intention, I'm going to scan my body, you can just literally take a deep breath, close your eyes, and just scan through the body and ask yourself if there's any areas of tension that you're feeling. Is there anywhere that needs to come to your attention? And just go through that and just be aware of it and just connect into the body. Feel the body, feel where you are. And that can be enough to reset you. Or you might want to do 3 deep breaths. So if you, like me, like to drink a lot of tea and coffee and you're so waiting for the kettle to boil, often we will fill that 3 minutes with a busy task in the kitchen, something to do, Or what about while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, you just take 3 long, slow, deep breaths. So just connect into the breath really deep and breathe really deeply into the belly, inhaling, and you can exhale through the mouth. So you can either make an audible sigh if you want, or you just and do 3 or 4 breaths like that while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. That is an act of self-care that you're not registering as self-care. Just making yourself a cup of tea is a act of self-care, but if you do it mindfully with deep breaths and really focusing on how you feel, you're offering yourself even greater care. Or it could even be something as simple as when you finish a task. I have this habit, and I'm getting a lot of tension around my shoulders and my neck. When I'm sitting at my desk, I'll sit forward and I'll be on my computer and I sit and I'll sit and I'll sit. And then you get lots of tension building up, and that's not good for the body. Now, obviously, the ideal would be at the end of the day, I can do a full yoga practice. I can do lots of chest openers and opening up and stretching around this area so that I'm countering all the hunching that I'm doing in the day. It's just not going to happen, right? It might do sometimes, but to say that I'm going to do it every day or stick to a routine, life is too chaotic and all over the place for me to say, yes, I can definitely do that. So I think, well, okay, well, maybe at 3 or 4 points in the day, I'm just going to sit at my desk and I'm going to sit back in my chair and I'm going to lean back and open and then just do that. As simple as that. Maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And that's just a gentle self-care. You're opening up your body, you're stretching, you're just changing the way that the body feels, and that's going to have a big impact. And when you are taking a break, so okay, if you want to have a 5-minute break, so I was referring it to the cigarette break. So let's suppose you want to take regular breaks throughout the day. You might have a habit of when you want a break, you pick your phone up and you sit and scroll for 5 minutes and you get on with something else. Well, what about if you replace that 5-minute scroll, which you don't need to do, it's mindless, actually doesn't do anything to reset you, because actually that can, personally, I find that 5-minute scroll can actually dysregulate me more than anything else that I'm doing. So you're actually adding to the stress as opposed to relieving it. So instead of that 5-minute scrolling on your phone, maybe you can do a 5-minute reset. So whether that be a full body scan, a breath, a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise, or all sorts of different breathing exercises, whatever it is that works for you. Maybe you get up and doing a shake and a bounce, or a moving around, or a dance, or just doing something that's going to change your state, or having a 5-minute stretch practice. Whatever it is that works for you, and maybe you do 2 or 3 different things throughout the day, but allowing yourself to have that instead of the mindless scrolling is an act of self-care, because you've taken away something negative, not enjoyable, damaging to your nervous system, and you've brought in something that's going to nourish you and allow you to get, even if you don't want to do a nervous system reset, maybe for that 5 minutes, maybe you're reading a book you really enjoy, and maybe for 5 minutes you sit and read a book and you do something that's for you and not just time wasting. So it's just about you thinking how you can personally create your own plan in your day and how you can fit little things in. And mine changes on a regular basis. So some days I'll do more than other days. But I try and keep a mindful awareness of how am I feeling? Have I reset? Have I cared for my nervous system today? Because every time I stop, or have I cared for myself? Every time I stop and do a short thing for me, I'm reinforcing that I matter. I'm reinforcing that self-care matters, but I'm also not burdening myself with, how am I going to get an hour's yoga in today? Or where am I going to do that meditation? That one says 30. I mean, I have started, and that's why I'm starting doing the evenings before I go to bed, longer meditations, but that's only at the moment, and I can't guarantee that I would stick to that. But in the mornings when I do my meditation, I'll do a 7 to 10 minute meditation, because I can just about get my son to leave me alone for 7 to 10 minutes while I do my meditation. And I know that I can squeeze that in because it's not a really long time. And again, I like to do tapping every day. And I have an app that has short taps that are only 2 or 3 minutes long. So I'll do ones like that. And if my son is around, I get him to tap with me because he actually really enjoys it. So I still get to do it. And it's thinking about that, how can you do it and make it fun? So on the app that I have that does taps for me, it also has ones for kids. So sometimes I'll say, well, should we do one for you as well? And he does his own tapping and he really enjoys it. And so it's making it part of our family routine as well. And it's just how you can fit these things in that work for you and that make you feel like you're nourishing and caring for yourself without pushing yourself to the limit. And just remembering that these small pauses, they don't require you to start rearranging your life or fitting something like a new practice in and dedicating time to something. It's about how you take these practices and fit them inside your existing life so that you're not having to stress yourself out about it. And I think it's important to acknowledge as well when we do these things that we're not perfect. Okay, so it's very easy to say, oh, I'm going to do 5-minute practice on the hour every hour. And then that hour goes past and you got distracted and you didn't do it. And then you think, oh, I'll blow it. And you just forget it. But actually, if you just say, I'm going to practice 5 minutes in my day when I remember, when a natural pause happens and I'm going to do it. Or some evenings, like I've been meditating in the evenings. Some evenings I'm too tired. I just don't have it in me. I have this weird thing that happens to me and I struggle with, and I've been meditating more in the evening, but I struggle with it because when I meditate in the evening, I suffer from restless leg syndrome and I get it in my hands as well. It's really weird. If I meditate in the day, in the mornings particularly, I don't get it. But if I meditate in the evenings, I suffer from restless leg and often in my hands as well as my feet. And I struggle to actually focus on the meditation. And so I can ease up on that. I can say to myself, that's okay. Do you know what I mean? If you can't do it, then you can't do it then. And it's listening to my own body and what's right and figuring out what's right for me. And sometimes in the evening, I need to just down tools and just flop in front of the TV. And it's not about guilt tripping yourself if you do that, or guilt tripping yourself if you miss a long practice or you make it hard. This is part of the self-care, is offering yourself compassion. Did you take, even if it's just 2 minutes today, just 2 minutes or 1 minute? Did I just notice my breath once? That's enough to say that you're caring about yourself. And then you can gradually build into it. And so if you can look at the positives, the bits where you did manage it, the bits where you were able to do it, then you don't need to worry about the bits where you didn't. Let's focus on the positive. And remembering that what we focus on, we get more of. So when you focus on, oh, I managed to do this today and I managed to do that, then the next day your brain is looking for more opportunities for you to achieve that positive outcome. So just focusing on that. And just remember, self-care isn't about doing more. It's about doing what actually restores you. So that's why this is about learning what works for you and not just fitting things in because people say, well, it's a good idea. So my words of advice to you is don't wait until collapse happens to start taking care of yourself. Look for those 2-minute windows in your day. And what can you replace mindless habits with? So if you have mindless things you're doing, can you replace them with something that's going to offer you care? And just start with one small pause, and that is enough. That is enough to actually make it work. So if you've ever felt that you are too busy to take care of yourself, then hopefully you've enjoyed this video and you know that you can start small, start now, because it all counts. And if you've enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe so you get more of my stuff. And I'm sharing quite a few short real life resets inside my free community, The Sacred Pause. So come and join if you want to feel calm and you want it to feel doable. So I'll drop the link in the description and you can come and join us, and I'll see you soon.